I've seen some studies that indicate ADHDers tend to be drawn towards entrepreneurial pursuits. But in many cases, because of executive dysfunction, that drive isn't matched with capacity to actually succeed. So their dreams far outweigh their capacity to actually come through. And they're more likely to succeed if they have organizational structure behind them, backing them, or a partner with better executive functioning skills who can kind of balance it out. And often it's the case, I find, being an ADHDer myself, that my aspirations often outweigh my calculations, meaning I reach for something often impulsively, although my autism tends to counterbalance that by making me be a lot more introspective and reflective about the steps I'm taking. But I do rush towards a new pursuit, a new source of stimulation, novelty, inspiration, and it could be a career, it could be a hobby, it could be a relationship, a friendship, and the desire for, whatever that promises for me is going to outstrip often my ability to judge whether it's a great choice. And sometimes it actually works out. The impulsiveness, the willingness to try something new, to seek out that novelty, stimulation, reward, is going to lead me to something that's a positive influence on my life. It enriches it in some ways. It can lead me to pivot towards a new career choice that's more fulfilling. Whatever it is, sometimes it works. Other times it doesn't. And it feels like that fable of Icarus who's wearing the wax wings and flies too close to the sun, and the sun melts the wings. And that's often the case. We, as ADHDers, have a moonshot vision of something we want to accomplish, and we go for it. And some of us end up having great success, and many, many times we don't. Sometimes it's an experiment, and it's not as successful as we would hope it would be, and it can even lead to failure, to significant loss of money, time, investment, relationships, effort, whatever it is, because we didn't really think through necessarily whether it was the right fit for us, whether it could have a negative consequence, whether we had the aptitude to be able to succeed in the thing that we're throwing ourselves into. Because of that, it didn't work out. And sometimes, actually, we're kinesthetic learners. We actually have to go in and do the thing and make the mistake and experience the lack of success to go, okay, that's not for me. Didn't work out. Wasn't going to work out. Sometimes we don't have necessarily the perseverance and we don't follow through, when maybe those initial stumbles and those initial failures or lack of success was just the teething stages of our experiment, and that we have to keep pushing through and persisting, and maybe after a significant investment of time, that will reap a reward. And there is, in many cases, persistence among ADHDers. We will persist, sometimes banging our head against a wall in which there's no happy outcome down the road for us, but we still insist on trying because we're dogged and determined. Sometimes the impulse that drove us wears out, and we abandon the project or abandon the investment or whatever we're doing, and we move on to the next thing. And that's where it can become self-sabotage. Similarly, if you are banging your head against the wall and you're persisting when it's beyond reason, that is also a form of self-sabotage. However, like I said, because we're kinesthetic learners, we just have to do it. And through a series of mistakes, we start to recalibrate and get better at making those calculations so that they don't outstrip the aspirations. We start to go, okay, going into this, having done all these things, having had all these mistakes, having had these lack of successful enterprises, I know now X, Y, Z. I know that I don't want to do this thing. I know this thing won't work for me. I know this will be an obstacle. This will be a challenge. And then you'll go, okay, do I have the systems of support? Do I have the aptitude? Do I have the time? Do I have the capacity to pursue this thing? And will it be successful for me? And we learn through trial and error. And we will make often a series of mistakes, and our lives are littered with lots of mistakes where we went headlong into an enterprise or an effort and it didn't work out. But that informs us. It makes us wiser. It makes us have greater latitude in terms of our experience and our self-knowledge, because we're willing to take those risks, sometimes catastrophically. We are able to get more experience of failure and more experiences, and generally speaking, about what works for us and what doesn't. So in many ways, there are pros and cons to this tendency to reach for something without having done a lot of the thinking that's, I would say, the situation might necessitate otherwise. And so it's kind of like an extreme. There's greater rewards and then greater loss. And sometimes as an ADHDer, I wish that I could just be in the center and not have to go to these extremes, not have to be a kinesthetic learner and make mistakes that could probably be avoided if I did enough kind of reflective thinking. But I also know that being ADHD, my mind will not accept no for an answer. It wants to persist. It wants to push past. It wants to try things. It wants to taste the world, in a sense, and have those experiences. And no amount of convincing on my part, no amount of logic on my part can often stop it. And I think the challenge is that we often feel like we're dragged behind this impulse that the ADHD mind is propelling us towards. And that's where it becomes frustrating, where you might have good judgment at this point because you've had those experiences, and you might be like, no, this isn't a good idea. But the brain is like, no, you should, you have to, you got to. And it will perseverate and persist and think endlessly about this thing, and you can't get any relief. And then you have to end up going and doing it. It's kind of like an OCD-like compulsion to go and pursue this thing and invest time and energy and effort and thought into this thing. Have you struggled with this tendency to want to reach for something and then bypasses your thinking or your careful consideration? And has it led to catastrophe or misfortune or negative experiences? Has it led to positive experiences? I imagine you will have a variety of these experiences, and that you've probably learned something from each of them. Whether it was like that wasn't the right thing for you, or whether you should slow down next time, whatever the lesson is, or whatever you've learned through your experiences, I would love to hear from you.